Imagine standing inside a nuclear power plant that is falling apart, minute by minute. Imagine watching gauges fail, structures shake, and alarms scream, and knowing with terrifying clarity that if you step outside that door, millions of people may lose their future. Most people would run, most people did, but one man stayed. This is the real story, carefully documented, historically verified, of Masao Yoshida, the Japanese engineer who refused to abandon Fukushima and prevented a nuclear catastrophe that could have wiped out entire regions of Japan. On the afternoon of the 11th of March of 2011, Japan was struck by one of the most powerful earthquakes ever recorded. A violent shock so immense that it literally tilted the Earth's axis by a few centimeters, but the quake was only the beginning. Minutes later, a colossal tsunami, walls of water rising higher than 15 meters, tore across the coastline. It swallowed towns, roads, forests, and finally reached the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. Within seconds, the plant's emergency generators drowned, cooling systems died, electricity vanished, and inside the reactors, heat began to rise uncontrollably. At the center of this disaster stood one man, Masao Yoshida, site manager of Fukushima Daiichi. Inside the control rooms, Yoshida read the data with chilling calm. Pressure in Reactor 1 was climbing. Temperatures were spiking. The fuel rods, the very heart of the reactor, were at risk of being exposed. In the nuclear world, this is the beginning of the end. The government ordered an evacuation. TEPCO headquarters, the plant's owner, ordered an evacuation. Protocols demanded an evacuation. But Yoshida looked at his team and said words he later repeated under oath. If we leave, the plant will be lost. This was not bravado. It was not heroism. It was a sober calculation. If the plant melted down completely, the consequences would reach Tokyo, a city of nearly 30 million people. Evacuation on that scale would have been unprecedented. Japan, as the world knows it today, would no longer exist. So Yoshida made a decision that defied orders and probably saved a nation. We stay. We fight. We hold this plant together. Then came the explosions. First Reactor 1. A deafening blast that sent debris into the sky. Then Reactor 3, shattered concrete, twisted steel, white plumes rising like ghosts. Soon after, Reactor 4. Anyone could see the truth. Fukushima Daiichi had become a labyrinth of radiation and smoke, but Yoshida refused to retreat. With pumps destroyed and electricity gone, cooling the reactors became nearly impossible. The only remaining option was a desperate one, injecting seawater directly into the reactors with fire trucks and makeshift hoses. It was a last resort method. Risky, non-standard, potentially irreversible. TEPCO headquarters, fearing damage to the reactors, ordered Yoshida to stop. He listened. He paused. And then, historically documented in official transcripts, he secretly continued injecting seawater, issuing the quiet instruction: ignore the order, keep going. That single act of disobedience prevented a full meltdown. Radiation levels rose. Engineers collapsed from exhaustion. Many cried silently behind protective masks. But Yoshida kept his team moving with a steady, almost fatherly voice. Every minute we gain, he told them, is a life saved outside these walls. The men who stayed became known as the Fukushima 50, though in reality, teams rotated and far more than 50 individuals risked their lives. Official investigations later concluded that one reactor in particular, Reactor 2, came dangerously close to a catastrophic explosion. Had it blown, the fallout would have forced the evacuation of Tokyo and contaminated vast stretches of land for generations. But it didn't, because Yoshida's team held the line. In the year 2012, Yoshida received devastating news. He had developed cancer of the esophagus. He died in the year 2013. Experts emphasized that his specific cancer was not linked directly to the radiation levels he faced at Fukushima, but the symbolism was undeniable. The man who absorbed the nation's fear would never see the full scope of what he had saved. In one of his final interviews, Yoshida said something astonishingly humble: I did nothing special. There was work to do, and we did it. But the historical record tells another story. Japan's official diet investigation later wrote that the courage of Yoshida and his team prevented the worst-case scenario. The world remembers disasters, but it often forgets the people who stopped them. Masao Yoshida was not a soldier, not a politician, not a myth. He was an engineer, an ordinary man with an extraordinary sense of duty. His story forces us to ask a haunting question: how many lives can be changed by one person who refuses to run? If you want to explore more real stories, untold, documented, human, and powerful, follow this channel. Because the next story may change the way you see history, and what one single life can truly mean. Thanks for watching.